and the perception and perspective of each and everyone is changed. I would have been very eager to meet you personally and to have an interaction in classroom. This time, after the schedule, I've been allotted to teach you one credit course from the paper Spermatophyta, and that is angiosperm taxonomy in particular. Dear friends, I hope that you are staying safe at home. You are well acquainted with this online teaching pedagogy, and also you are now acquainted with the various modules we are supposed to use in coming days. Yes, I can see that there won't be much far where you can again join together in a much more enthusiastic way as per our regular classroom teaching schedule. But meanwhile, when we are not available for presenting ourselves together, we have to follow this online teaching pedagogy. Dear friends, before I start with my lectures, I want to interact, Deva. I want to interact with you with some issues. Just a minute, please hold on. ही एका पानाची इमेज होती ज्याच्यावरती चित्रपट होती ती इमेज कुठे आहे? नाही ना, तर मेरे एकच पान आहे तो, एक पीडीएफ आणि एक इमेज आहे त्याची.
हॅलो
इमेजच नाही आलेली आहे.
हॅलो सर,
तेच मी त्याच्यावर बोलायचं होतं मला त्या डायग्राम वरती.
हॅलो
मॅम.
हा सर, अँजिओस्पर्म फॅमिलीचा तुम्ही जो मॅग्नोलियासीचा इमेज दिली होती ती म्हणताय का?
होय.
शेअर करू का ती?
कोणाला
शेअर करायची आहे का?
इट इज देयर विथ मी. ऍक्च्युअली माझ्याकडे दोन इमेज होते मॅडम, त्या दोन इमेज मिळाल्या तुम्हाला?
एक पीडीएफ आहे आणि एक इमेज आहे, दोन आहेत.
पण ही पीडीएफ जी आहे ती इमेजचीच आहे ना?
हा येस, इमेजचीच आहे, बरोबर.
असं नाही, मला माझ्या दोन वेगळ्या इमेजेस होते.
ओके ओके.
Dear students, the way of interaction I have selected is that I will be providing you the material to study, and that will be available to you on your WhatsApp form. Even if at all you require, it may be available, or I can make it available on your mails. But there is a humble request that whenever we are appearing for an interactive session online, you have to read it out firstly. Whatever material I have submitted, you have to read it out. Then there is another issue that if at all possible, try to read your notes which are available to you for the last year. Because in EYBSc as well as in MSc also, we have learnt about the taxonomy and we have studied some families, so that we will get acquainted with the way we are supposed to learn the taxonomical approach. And for that purpose, what is important is, as this is a descriptive syllabus, descriptive component, and it is very not feasible for me to teach everything using the screen or blackboard or the screenshot. I will be doing one thing, as this is an introductory lecture, first lecture. I have provided you the material. Just go through the material, read it very thoroughly, and then in our interactive session, we will be discussing what are the important highlighting points of this issue. And accordingly, we will be discussing it. If at all you people are having some doubts, some queries, you can ask me, and then I can provide you the again supplementary material, related material to you again on WhatsApp group. So in this way, I am expecting that we will be meeting at least 2 to 3 times or sometimes more in every week, and so that we can go ahead initially at a slow pace, but we can keep up the pace and we will complete the syllabus as early as possible. Now, as far as today's discussion is concerned, I do know And each and everyone is having the capability to listen to the audio of only for 20 to 25 minutes. So obviously I cannot go on talking without anything to see you on the screen. There is another issue that if at all we are discussing this syllabus online, I'm not knowing whether how many people are having the laptop or how many of you students are having your own PC or whether you are joined through your mobile. And obviously, depending upon this interface, the clarity, the space, the distinctness is dependent. And because of that, I feel that I should provide you the material well in advance. And whenever we'll be discussing in future, you have to keep that material ready with you so that that material will be providing you as a ready reckoner. And with this ready reckoner material, we have to go ahead. So to begin with, let us start. Patil ma'am, hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There is some problem with
Okay.
sharing my screen.
Okay.
Can you do one thing?
Yes, sir.
Just share it for me.
That PDF image.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Just a minute. I suppose it seems.
Okay.
याला बोलो विषय छान बोलो तो इथं कसं ओपन करायचं मला दाखवा तुला मला स्क्रीन ओपन करायचं आहे
पहिल्यांदा स्क्रीन शेअर करायचं
हो
आणि ती फाईल ओपन करायची मिनिमाइज करू विंडोज डी बटन दाबून मिनिमाइज होईल
कुठलं
विंडोज आणि डी
ओपन केली होती माझी ओके मग ही शेअर करायची मला
इथे गेलं सर प्रेझेंटिंग म्हणायचं आणि परत स्टार्ट प्रेझेंटिंग करायची प्रेझेंट नाव विंडो विंडो
तिथून सिलेक्ट
तिथून सिलेक्ट करायचं
इथं क्लिक करायचं
कुठं
ड्रॉप डाऊन बॉक्स हां त्याच्यामध्ये एंटर स्क्रीन हां खाली शेवटचं हां आणि अलाव करायचं अलाव
तिथे फायरफॉक्स मला अलाव करत नाही
नाही आता हे मिनिमाइज करायचं एक तुमचं ब्राउझर आता दिसते का विचार
येस मॅम कॅन यू सी दिस नाव
Yes, yes, sir. Presenting screen.
Okay, the screen share is there now.
Just a
Okay,
minute.
good. Okay. Yeah, dear friends, as this was the first session for me also, there were several issues which I wanted to learn myself. There are, more than 14 families we are supposed to learn in angiosperm taxonomy. Now, the families which we are supposed to learn in MSc, they are highly important families from taxonomical point of view. Many of these families, they are almost either endemic, they are rare, or they are that way insignificant from economic point of view. But obviously, these families are very important from their taxonomical significance, their systematic significance, and because of that, these families, they have been included in the syllabus. Now, before we are going ahead, I want to tell you that we have studied this family in TYBSc. Now, those students who have come from the Shivaji University, they might have not learned this family. But the ones who are coming from the Savitribai Phule University, they must be aware about this family. Now, the way we are studying the families is which family we are going to study. So what is the distribution of this family? And what are the general characters of the family? The general characters of the family you have to learn from the material which has been provided to you. But I will be discussing when we will be interacting together the important highlights or distinguishing characters. Then we have to go ahead and we have to study some of the important genera within the family. Then obviously you have to go ahead on your own and you have to study the floral diagram and floral formula for each and every genera and species if it is important. Because each and every specimen or each and every genera and species, they are having their own floral diagram and floral formula. So it cannot be used as a general ruling. So obviously things will change. So you have to learn yourself by studying a particular specific specimen, a representative example. And then ultimately what we are discussing in detail will be its phylogenetic significance. Why this family is important, why we should study the family, which are the components of this family which are very important, and these components which are making this family separate from other families. And from this point of view, we have been studying this family in this chronological manner. As this is the first lecture, I will just in brief introduce you the family Magnoliaceae. Dear friends, I know that in SY BSc we have studied the two classification systems. One classification system was Bentham and Hooker's system of classification, and another was the England and Prandtl system of classification. In Bentham and Hooker's system of classification, at that time we have seen that Bentham and Hooker's system of classification, it was based on the assumptions which were made by the Besse. They are called the Besse's dictas. Besse was a Swedish scientist, taxonomist, and he has assumed that there has to be certain characters which must be primitive one, or which must be exhibited by the primitive members. And so accordingly, he prepared almost 22 dictas, principles. So considering these 22 principles, the Bentham and Hooker, they arranged the known families of that time, almost 202 families, in that chronological sequence. Obviously, they had included the dicotyledons at the beginning and monocotyledons at the end. And the same assumption, it was proven true later on. So accordingly, this particular trend of Besse, it was established that this was the principally correct thinking of evolution of angiosperms, and then it was then understood that the angiosperms might have evolved almost 135 to 100 million years back from the recorded data, fossil data, and they are still showing the evolution, progressive evolution. But dear friends, let me tell you one thing. When we are studying about the families, the beauty is that even though there are certain primitive families, these families, they are present even today. So obviously these families at one time, on one side, they are showing the primitive characters, earlier characters. At the same time, during the course of time, they have acquired new characters also, modified characters also. And that's why they are popular. That's why they have become successful. And that's why they are present today also. So we are studying the living families and not the fossil families. Obviously, when we talk about the Besse's dictas, the Besse identified that there is a single order which is exhibiting, which is containing the largest amount of primitive characters together. And this group was called as a Reynolds. So those taxonomists, from the Besse onwards, they were following this particular school. It is called as the Reynoldian school. And this Rennelian school says that the Rennels group is the group which is the most primitive one, and this group contains almost more than 13 families all over the world. Of these 13 families, 11 families of that group, these are small families. These families, they are highly endemic families, very small families, but they are restricted to certain regions. Most of this Rennell group, it is present in tropical and subtropical belt all over the world. It means they are present in Asia, they are present in Africa, and also they are present in the New World, that is Brazil and other areas. So this is the sort of a belt, this is sort of an evolution of angiosperms which has taken place, and we are trying to trace those families which were present or which have come on the earth earlier, and they have continued further. So we are studying some of the families which are showing several primitive characters or few primitive characters, and at the same time they are showing some new characters also, modern characters also. And accordingly, from MSc point of view, from the higher studies point of view, we are going to study a sort of a comparison of what can be a primitive character, what can be an advanced character, and what can be the correlation between the two. And because of that, dear friends, when we are talking about the taxonomy, there is a lot of homework you are supposed to do. What is the homework? First of all, homework is try to read, if at all you are having your notes with you, the TYBSc notes of taxonomy. You try to read the systems of classification which we have learned in SYBSc. Now try to understand the taxonomical terms which are present, which we are supposed to use every time. The meaning of these taxonomical terms. Because here we are not studying the family from the economic point of view, but we are studying the family from the phylogenetic point of view. And because of that, in your mind, you should always have a comparative account of external morphology, internal morphology. You should know something about the taxonomy. You should know something about the cytology. You should know something about the genetic features. You should know something about the physiological features. You should know about the histological features. That is called the cladistic characters. So basically, the external and internal characters, they are highlighting the prominence of various traits which are exhibited by these families. For example, we will discuss today, in short, the family Magnoliaceae. I feel that you all are sharing the screen, and you can see the screen. Earlier I have shared this with you. Dear friends, the family Magnoliaceae belongs to the order Rennels. So why this family is important? This family is important because this is one of the most primitive family, it is assumed, in the angiosperms. Not only in the dicots, but in the angiosperms. And it is assumed that dicots are more primitive than angiosperms, than monocots. So obviously, this family is the beginning. So this is, you can say, the first step of evolution of angiosperms. The Besse assumed that the tree habitat was the primitive habitat. And obviously, if you go beyond, you will realize that the gymnosperms and seed ferns, that is the terrestrial group, they were exhibiting the tree habit. So obviously they were having the perennial form. Most of the Magnoliaceae family is a tree-bearing plant. They are basically woody and perennial plants. But the family Magnoliaceae, it is important because from wood character, it exhibits three important characteristic features. First of all, it shows the presence of lenticels, and in these lenticels, there is a presence of volatile oils. Actually, these oils not related with the higher families, but these volatile oils, they are of gums and resins. Remember, these volatile oils in form of gums and resins, that is the characteristic feature of gymnosperms. But here in angiosperms, particularly Magnoliaceae, the lenticels are present. Lenticels are nothing but, these lenticels are nothing but these are the small pores which are present on the stem. And these pores, they contain the resins and gums. This is first thing. Secondly, the wood of Magnoliaceae is highly important because this is the exceptional wood of angiosperms which is not containing the xylem. What does it mean? It is not containing the xylem vessels, but it is containing the xylem, but the xylem tracheids are present, the aids are present, the tracheids are present. So the vessels are absent in them is again a unique primitive character which is exhibited in the family Magnoliaceae. And thirdly, the most important character again of this family is that this family is having the larger wood content and small pith content. It's a typical character. And this typical character of large wood content, including the primary wood and secondary wood, and small pith content, this is the character exhibited by the seed ferns, that is pteridosperms. And this is exhibited by this family. I am talking about the large wood because in other families or in other members of the angiosperms, the pith, when it is present, the pith is always large and the pith is covered with the sapwood. The pith is covered with the tannin material. Very importantly, in Magnoliaceae, the pith of the Magnoliaceae, it is not filled with the tannins, but it is filled with the resins. And remember, this resin character, filling up the resins and polyphenols, this is the character of gymnosperms. I suppose you must have known about the pinus, you must be knowing about the niche. In gymnosperms, the pith is containing the resins. The pith is containing the secondary metabolites and not the tannins, where the tannins are present in rest of the angiosperms. So, when we are talking about the Magnoliaceae, this particular Magnoliaceae, it contains almost 7 genera. We are very much fortunate that out of these 7 genera, 4 genera, they are present in India. Particularly the 2 members, they are very common to Maharashtra itself. One is Michaelia champaka, ज्याला आपण मराठीमध्ये सोनचाफा म्हणतो, सगळ्यांना हे plant माहिती आहे. And the second plant is Magnolia. Dear friend, the Magnolia plant is showing its existence in Konkan area. If you visit to the Konkan, particularly this plant is planted near the temples. कोकणामध्ये ज्या ज्या ठिकाणी देवीचे मंदिर आहेत आणि ज्या ज्या ठिकाणी तळी आहेत त्या सर्व ठिकाणी ही मॅग्नोलिया सापडतो. मॅग्नोलिया लावलेला आहे. या मॅग्नोलियाला मराठीमध्ये कवठी सापळ म्हणतात. And then obviously the magnolia is prevailing in dominance in Himachal area. Also, another genus which is very important, that is the Liriodendron, it is a shrub. And this shrub is present again in Himachal Pradesh, in Assam and other areas. So, the Magnoliaceae family is that way, it is restricted to certain areas. Now, the another characteristic feature of this is that, of this family is that, this family, the birds of this family, they are showing the presence of extraorbicular stipules. Extraorbicular means they are sheathing, they are present towards the other side of the bud, and they are called as ligulate stipules. So the Magnoliaceae alone, it shows such a type of extraordinary stipules. So obviously in the Magnoliaceae, it is called as the stipulate leaves. But always the stipules, they are caudicous. Caudicous means the moment the leaves are getting opened up, they fall down. I suppose the best example, I will give you example, the best example I can narrate with you or share with you is the example of bamboo. तुम्ही सगळ्यांनी बांबू बघितला असेल. त्या बांबूच्या त्या फांदीभोवती तो मधला जो सोट असतो त्या सोटाभोवती एक असं टोपण असतं छोटंसं गोल आणि त्या गोल टोपणातून त्याचा तो देठ बाहेर पडतो. त्याचा अपेक्स असतो बाहेर पडतो. त्याची पानं बाहेर पडतात आणि द मोमेंट द लीव्स कम आउट तो जो ते टोपण जे असतं ते टोपण खाली गळून पडतं. In family Magnoliaceae also, the stipules, they are always large in size, they are always caudicous, that is they are falling down, and they are always boat shaped. There is another character of these stipules that they are with a sheathing leaf base, that is they are covering the entire stem. त्यामुळं ते एक प्रकारे प्रोटेक्शन असतं तयार झालेलं आणि ते प्रोटेक्शन नंतर निघून जातं. सो अकॉर्डिंगली वी आर गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट द फॅमिली मॅग्नोलिएसी and already the discussions, already the details are there on the screen. Unfortunately, there was one more slide which I wanted to share with you, but today it is not there with me because there was some technical problem. And that slide was showing the floral characters. So why this Magnoliaceae is important? This Magnoliaceae is important simply because this family shows three distinct characters which are not exhibited by other angiosperms. One, it is having the modified stem as a flower. It is not having a proper flower. It is a modified stem which is modified for the purpose of reproduction. How it is called as a modified stem? Because it contains basically two floral parts. The first floral part is its protective layer. Obviously, it contains the bracts, and then it contains the tepals, perianth. Remember, the perianth number is always indefinite. It's more. Generally, this perianth number either it may be 6 or 9 or 18 or so on and so forth. तुम्ही चाफ्याची फुलं बघितली असतील, चाफ्याला 9 पानं असतात, 9 पाकळ्या असतात, सगळ्या पाकळ्या दिसासारख्याच दिसतात. So here also in this family, the perianth is always fleshy and it is arranged in a cyclic manner without any distinction of calyx and corolla. But importantly, it also shows the presence of glands. I told you at the beginning that such a type of glands, they are present even on the surface of leaf, lamina. So similar type of glands are present on the leaves also as well as on the surface of perianth also. It is a unique feature. Then secondly, it contains one more character, and that character is concerned with the reproductive character, androecium. Androecium, that is stamens. As far as the Magnoliaceae is concerned, the stamen number is much more higher. The androecium number is minimum 20, and many of times this number may cross 100 and 200 also. So stamens are very miniature in form. They are very small, and they are present at the base of the tepals. The important character of the stamens is that the stamens are, in Magnoliaceae, they are called as a lamellar stamens. In our regular stamen structure of angiosperms, what we have, we are having a filament, a stalk, and the anther lobes. There are two anther lobes are present. So it is always we are calling as a mythicus, two-layered. Here, when we are talking about the androecium, this androecium, it contains two pollen sacs, and these pollen sacs, they contain number of pollen grains. Now these pollen grains, they are two-celled pollen grains. Again, that is a unique character of Magnoliaceae, because in the rest of the angiosperms, the pollen grains, if you study, they are three-celled and two nucleated. Sorry, they are two nucleated. They are two-celled and three nucleated. In Magnoliaceae, they are two-celled and two nucleated. There is one more important component, and that they are having enlarged connective. That is the stamens of the androecium or the stamens of the Magnoliaceae. It is leaf-like. I will share these lamellar stamen figures to you on your WhatsApp group. And because of that, these stamens, as the numbers is too much many, as far as the number of stamens is concerned and number of pollen grains is concerned, they are having the secretory glands at the base. Again, it is a unique character which is exhibited by the gymnosperms. And lastly, it is related with the pistil or it is related with the gynoecium. Again, the gynoecium of the Magnoliaceae, it contains apocarpous ovary. That is, the carpels are free. The carpels are again many. The number may vary, almost more than 20, 25 to many of times more than 100. And they are freely arranged. They are arranged spirally on an elongated conical axis. Now this elongated axis can be understood by a very simple example which is present around us. And that example is of anona. आपल्या सगळ्यांना सीताफळ माहिती आहे. तुम्ही सीताफळ खात असताना तुम्ही सीताफळ बघितलं असेल त्यामध्ये एक दांडा असतो, तो नंतर बाहेर निघतो आणि त्या दांड्याच्या भोवती पूर्णपणे त्या बियाशा फळाच्या रूपामध्ये गुंडाळलेल्या असतात. So here also the pistils are free and they are arranged in a spirocyclic, they are arranged in a spiral manner on the central conical thalamus. There is another beauty that this particular each carpel is bitegmic. It is having two integuments, that is two walls, two layers, outer layer and inner layer. Remember that rest of the angiosperms, they are tritegmic. They contain three walls. And in monocots, they contain only two walls. So this is the sort of evolution of integuments which starts from gymnosperms, where in gymnosperms many integuments are present and in monocots only two integuments are present. Now furthermore, in each carpel it contains a single ovule and it is always in a pendulous form. That is, it is always present in the pendulous form. The Magnoliaceae, it contains one more primitive character, and that primitive character is that in Magnoliaceae the style is totally absent. The style is totally absent. On the contrary, the stigma is present, which is much more inconspicuous. And because of this inconspicuous stigma, the appearance of a carpel is much more very simpler form, that of the carpel which was exhibited by the member of Benitial group. In TY-BSc, we have studied the Benitilian group. It was a primitive fossil gymnosperms and it was exhibiting this character. That character was bitegmic ovule carpel. The ovule was single and pendulum and there was no style. On the contrary, the stigma which was present, it was again situated deep into the tissue and the tissue was called as a micropylar tunnel cavity. In a similar type of cavity, but not much more deeper, is seen in the form of a stigma in the family Magnoliaceae. And because of that, the floral character, it is not a typical true angiosperm flower. It is angiosperm flower, no doubt, but it is exhibiting many more primitive characters. First, they are having the spirocyclic arrangement of the floral parts. Second, the perianth is present, calyx and corolla is absent. They are always fleshy and tepals are containing the glands which are very similar to the glands which are present on the leaves. Such a type of distinctness is not seen in other angiosperms. Then the stamens are present, the stamens are free, there are many, and the stamens are called as lamellar stamens because here the stamens, they show the enlarged connective. So it is again typical character, enlarged connective is a typical character which is exhibited in Magnoliaceae. Remember, such a type of enlarged connective has been reported from the Pteridophytes group advanced pteridophytes group, and also I told you that carpels are free and they are running on central cortical thalamus. And because of that, obviously, when the fruits are formed, this type of fruit is called as a segregate fruit, aggregate fruit, and it is called as a ichario of either berries or drupes. So the fruits are separate, the fruitlets are present, and because of that, it is a very typical, interesting family. Dear friends, as far as the diagrams are concerned, I will be sharing the diagrams of this family. Now, what is the phylogenetic significance of this family? As I told you, this particular family shows absence of vessels because presence of xylem vessel is a typical character of angiosperms, which is absent in this family. Lamellar stamens, again a typical character which is exhibited by this family, which is a primitive character. Free carpels without style and bitegmic ovules, again it is a typical primitive character which is exhibited by this family. And the presence of resinous ducts is a typical character again exhibited by the primitive gymnosperms and primitive seed ferns. It is exhibited. Then the ligulate stipules, which is again a typical character which is exhibited by the seed ferns, pteridosperms. All these primitive characters, they are aggregated, they are exhibited by these members, and that's why this family is treated as one of the most important primitive family among the angiosperms. Now, if you go through the books which may be available to you, or I will make the pages available to you on your WhatsApp group, you can go through the details and you can collect the information together, and all this information will give us the idea that there are n number of characters which are exhibited by this family which are not seen in other angiosperms. And because of that, this angiosperm family is treated as the most primitive family. When we are coming to the conclusion or aim towards this family, there is one component which I want to highlight. And that component is nothing but, it is the mode of pollination. Dear friends, in family Magnoliaceae, the fleshiness of the floral parts, the presence of oil glands, the presence of gums and resins which is being secreted, these are being attracted by the bees and beetles. So here, even the pollination is entomophilous. It is not by the butterflies. It is not by the insects. But it is the most primitive group of the insects. This group is called the Diptera group. So the Diptera is one of the most primitive group of insects. And this group is still existing and they are pollinating these flowers. And because of that, even the mode of pollination in this family is exhibiting a true primitive character. And because of that, because of the assemblage of these primitive characters together, along with some advanced characters, this family is considered as one of the most primitive family among the angiosperms, and almost each and every modern taxonomist, right from the Bentham and Hooker to modern Smith and Cronquist and Tattajan, they all have treated this family, and along with the family, the group Reynolds, as the most primitive group among the angiosperms. And from this point of view, the family Magnoliaceae is very important to study from the phylogenetic standpoint of view. Obviously, as this was the first lecture, I'm not going to elaborate you much more with technical details. We'll be repeating the characters, we'll be discussing the phylogenetic significance of this family in coming days again and again, when I'll be making the comparison of this family with other families also. And so from that point of view, I feel that family Magnoliaceae is not only important from the study point of view, but it is important from understanding the evolution of angiosperms on the earth. I feel I just narrated what I wanted to present in family Magnoliaceae. Now I will remove the screen share and I will open this topic for discussion. If at all you people are having some doubts, some clarifications, you can ask me now by opening up your audio button.
Yes. Hello, students. If you have any queries, you can ask by unmuting. Unmute yourself and ask your queries.
मला ते समजलं का मॅडम?
मॅम
Yes, sir. Yes, yes,
येस.
sir.
एक काम करा, आता प्रश्न
All
मांडून
doubts are
विचारा, मी
clear.
गोंधळणार नाही.
हा बोला.
सर सगळे डाऊट क्लिअर झाले. डाऊट
झाले?
क्लिअर झाले सर.
Yes.
नो क्वेश्चन. हा
ते का वाचलं ते समजलं का तुम्हाला? पोचलं का माझ्यापर्यंत?
हो समजलं सर.
ओके.